to do the first, or are you going to start off?
Who's going to do the first leg, and then we'll pray and maybe run to that sign right there. And we'll come back and then we'll start relaying right there. We're going to be running to the solar site where we'll end in prayer. We're going to start in prayer right here, right now. So to recognize to the public, Kay, that you know, call your senators, call your governors, call your representatives to, you know, stop this. We want solar power, but we don't want it on pristine desert floor. You know, there's anybody who looks at the desert, they say, "Oh, it's just a desert." It's not. You know, there's a lot of animals out here that need to be protected. You know that, and nobody's their voice. Okay. All right, come on, let's go.
Well, Ivanpah sits in the larger Mojave Desert ecosystem, and this is a renowned area of 25 million acres in size, roughly, known by scientists throughout the world for being one of the last intact ecosystems left in the desert Southwest, certainly, if not North America as a whole. I'm a botanist, and I study the plants in the California deserts and Nevada deserts. And what has really struck me by this area is the level at which we are just scratching the surface in terms of documenting the flora. You can assume roughly about 5 to 10% of the species out there remain undescribed to date.
I'll wait for Eric. I'll throw him in. I'll follow him. We're gonna go pick him up, and Ken is gonna, he's gonna drive, then Ken's gonna run a mile, and then Ronald drive the mile, and then at the mile, they'll switch and keep going that way.
When you think about Ivanpah and a number of these solar projects and large-scale impacts that are being proposed, you have to consider, can we even document the impacts when we don't know exactly, you know, all the species that are there?
I busted my ankle, so that's my excuse.
Sorry, Daddy.
If you go into Death Valley and you look at the tourism there from Europe and their deep appreciation for not only the biodiversity but this vast sort of open space that somewhere deep in our human spirit is necessary. It's not just about ecosystem function, it's about a deep appreciation. This scale of an impact has never occurred before. Once it reached about 250 proposed projects from 5 to 25,000 acres each, totaling 2 million acres just for California. I decided to do a quick and dirty analysis of how many acres of public lands have been mined since the passage of the 1872 Mining Act. We will exceed that total number of acres in 3 to 5 years if all these proposed projects were to go through. And when you consider the importance of these systems to provide corridors for species to move as climate changes, whether it's human-caused change or just the natural course of variation in climate change, you've really done in the entire ecosystem at that scale. It's been something that has dominated my life for the last 3 years. It's heartbreaking on a level that the best I can think of is when I talk to my older buddies who are Vietnam War veterans, I feel completely shell-shocked. I spend 150 to 200 days in the field a year studying plants. I have a relationship with the desert that few people are lucky to have. However, even if I lived in Nova Scotia, And if I understood what was being denied my daughter and future generations, I think I would feel the same way. And all I can do is characterize it as so heartbreaking because it's so unnecessary. We're talking about an area that's been a focus for my research. I feel as though now I've spent the last 17, 18 years studying a system so that we have information about it, so that future generations can read about it, but they'll never see it.
When you hear me pray, you'll hear us say Avimpa, and Avimpa in Chemehuevi is white clay water, and that's where the word Ivanpah comes from, Avimpa. What we're going to do is we're just going to thank the runners for bringing the prayers with the running, and a lot of people's tribes on the river and out in the desert area and all the west. Running is a very sacred thing, and it carries prayers with them, and we appreciate the young people doing that.
Increasingly, people are having less contact with their natural heritage. Whether it be a politician or a carpenter or a nurse or a yoga instructor. As we have increased urbanization and as we have an increasing loss of these systems, they become rare, and people live very busy lives these days that seem to be dominated by screens and not what's on the other side of them.
In our ways, when things were created, they were created for the people specifically, and that when animals died or became, and when they were people, when they became animals that people would use, it was for the people, and the plants, they gave themselves for the people too, and we just respect that, and try to keep that alive and keep that together.
So much is at stake. The consequences are so great that those of us who are active in this process and trying to slow it down so that both science-based decisions are achieved and also wise decisions for our society, that you feel compelled to almost perform what I call like a triage. And I think that's been the case with many of the activists involved, some scientists. We're all looking at the best way to be effective in simply communicating what's going on. Because if you don't communicate what's going on, you're not going to affect those who are making the decisions.
But there's certainly a marker right there.
We believe that these sacred places, they have power for the people. They're not just, they're not sacred on its own self. They're sacred when the people visit it. If people don't go there, it still has its power, but it lies dormant. And when people go there, then those things wake up and help the people.
Yeah. Now here's the minute. So you will notice.
Oh, it's a line. Look at that line. Black
See?
on one side.
Black on one side and blonde on the other side.
Yeah.
The blonde represents what? It represents male. The dark side, what we're stepping on what represents Mother Earth. Represents the woman. Represents night.
So I wonder if there are petroglyphs up here.
No, what it is like an altar symbol.
That's why.
Here we will see this arrow is night. And this arrow is pointing straight to where that mountain is right there. See that mountain is? What is the name of that mountain?
Clark Mountain.
That's Clark Mountain?
There are about
Okay.
5 springs in there.
There's some hot springs there. Okay. So everywhere that we have these sacred sites, it's the duality. But you all have to understand, quartz represents the male. Dark represents the female. This is Chis. This is Chis. I'm a miner.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. See, no, we gotta let the people know. Otherwise, what are we gonna do? It's just gonna be, they're gonna destroy. And then, so, like I said, before we were worried about the off-roaders, and now,
Yeah.
now it's total destruction.